ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka anyị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka anyị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ụmụ eluigwe anyị kọta n'otu, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ka anyị jikọọ ofe ya ofufe godian, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Godianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ise ya gazie.
Ndewo. Good morning, good morning. I know for some of you, you're used to a certain music that gets us started, but we have started today with just asking for Chineke to come and be in our midst, and we be in this world with the Creator, because there's nothing we can do without the presence and the love and the protection of the Creator. Before we go any further, I would just like to invite Dibia Ochuaja, Udee Onyioha, to get this day started with by breaking the kola nut. You know, traditionally, we have to break the kola nut. And so that's what we're going to start with. So wherever you are, get comfortable, get spirited. Be assured that the ancestors are surrounding you this morning to make sure that you are protected and your well-being is being taken care of. I want to invite Dibia Ochuaja, Udee Onyioha at this point, to join us.
Good morning. No, Carl.
Go.
Good morning. Good morning. Before I break the kola nut, it is said that the kola nut doesn't speak English. So the rite that I'm going to, perform is going to be performed in Igbo. But before I do that, though, I have something special to share with you regarding the kola nut that I have in my hand. This kola nut, Igbo kola nut, very significant spiritual relationship that we have with the kola nut. This particular kola nut has 4 parts to it, which is a rarity. You don't come across that all the time. You know, you can have kola nut with 3 parts, 4 parts, 5 parts, and all the way to 6 parts. But this morning, we're fortunate to have kola nut that has, as you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but it has 4 parts to it. And the significance of this 4 parts, this kola nut having 4 parts, is that it signifies, or it's a symbol of progress and happiness. All right. The 4 segments characterized in this kola nut, shows impending blessing, which will be bestowed on anyone who partakes in this kola nut, in sharing and eating of this kola nut. It also serves as a point of contact for progress or progression in every area of our lives for those that partake in this. So we are very blessed today to share a kola nut that has 4 parts, which means that there will be plenty of blessing coming into your household, plenty of progression in your life as you move from point A to point B. Everybody will remain blessed. Ndị banye ọjọọ abịala sị na onye wụsara ọjọọ ndụ bụ ife ọ gwụsara. Ọkwa lara ekwu ya ogele.
Ise.
Anyị na-ekpe ekpere ebe ọjọọ a si pụsa ta ife gara ya ọgụ nzọ. Ka ọ bụkwa ahụ mma bụ ife anyị ghara afụ.
Ise.
Onye kere ụwa, ndị ichie, anyị na-ekele unu taa, ọjọọ abịala nụ. Ife anyị na-arịọgo onye kere ụwa Chineke bụ ọmụmụ, arụ isi ike, ogologo ndụ. Ife anyị ha-eji zụ ụmụ. Anyị na-ekpe ekpere Chineke ka imezuere anyị ya, inye anyị ọmụmụ ma inye anyị ife anyị ha-eji zụ ụmụ, ya dịla imezuere anyị emezu. Ka inye anyị ife anyị ha-eji zụ ụmụ, inye anyị ọmụmụ, ya dịla imezuru emezu. Inye anyị ogologo ndụ, ka inye anyị arụ isi ike, ya dịla imezuru emezu. Inye anyị arụ isi ike, mere ogologo ndụ adịghị. Ya dịla imezuru emezu. Chineke, anyị na-ekele gị, onye kere ụwa, biko mere anyị dum. Mere anyị arụ isi ike, ogologo ndụ, ife anyị ha-eji zụ ụmụ, ọmụmụ. Mezuola anyị onye kere ụwa. Ebe beru ugo eberu, nke si ibe ebela nku ha akwa ya. Nnụnụ adịghị efe akụ isi osisi. Nnụnụ adịghị efe akụ isi osisi. Nnụnụ fe ya oche osisi cheberu. Ọla ndụ anyị ha adị. Ọla ndụ anyị adị. Ife ọbụla metụrụ aka, ọ ha gara ya ọgụ nzọ. Ọma chikọrọ ọkwa ahụ mma bụ ife aghara ya fụ onye kere ụwa. Anyị na-ekele gị, ndị iche anyị na-ekele unu. Ọjọọ abịala nụ. Ọfọ ya gazie. Ise ọfọ ya gazie. Ise ọfọ ya gazie. Ise mmamanụwo.
Ise o. Ọla omere. Imela ka. I think it's important that we start today following this wonderful libation ceremony to let everybody know, to be so grateful today that you're alive, you're walking amongst the living. There are individuals amongst us who are going through some trying times. Dr. Symona Monet is not able to join us today because she has, her parents were involved in an auto accident. And thank God the mother made it out okay, but the father is still hospitalized. So, we just want to pray and hold her and her family in our prayers and let them know that Chineke is always supporting the good. And she's a good woman. Her family are good. They do good things in the community. So there's nothing but goodness that will follow them today, even though they have this minor challenge. It's a minor one as far as we're concerned, because we're not claiming anything. He's going to walk right out of there. He'll be okay. They'll have their happiness in their families one more time. because we're not prepared for anything other than goodness this year. So please, whatever you're doing today, hold them in your prayer. That is so important. I am so excited about today personally, because I did a workshop yesterday, and that workshop was entitled "Stepping into Your Power." What does it mean to step into your power? Stepping into anything means moving forward. You don't move backwards. You move forward when you step into your power. So sometimes you've got to step back and see where you are and where you want to go. And that's important. Yes. But stepping into your power is what all of us must dedicate to do. What makes us powerful beings? What makes us, puts us where we need to be? Stepping into our power as our African people means that we are not going to be defined anymore. It doesn't make us racist. It doesn't make us ethnocentric. It just means that we understand what it means to survive. To survive means that you must do whatever it takes to step forward, to become responsible for your growth or lack thereof. You can blame people all you want for your condition in the world, but it is what you allow people to do to you that creates the human being that you become. So you need to look into the mirror and see yourself. You need to talk to yourself, have self-talk, chastise yourself for when you're not doing the good things, and praise yourself when you're doing good things. I start this by saying there's a video I want to share, and afterwards we're going to talk about that video. But before I share that video, I want to bring Chiedozie, Dibia Chiedozie, who's going to talk today about Okwa, which is the topic of today. But I want to play. Let me bring him in first, so we can say, do the formalities and say hello to him. And let me see, Dibia. There you go. I'm going to add you to the stream. Onyeze, there one mama.
There one mama.
Look at you. Both of you. You have your chieftaincy hats on.
Okwa.
You're standing tall, proud. Yes, sir. Yeah, so we want to welcome you. Didn't know. What I started before we go into our lecture, what I talk about, I said earlier, is we need to be defining ourselves because if we don't, we will continue to be stuck. We'll always be in the valley. It's time to climb the mountaintop. We've got to get away from the valley. So I want you to listen to this young woman. She's making a lot of sense. She's from South Africa. And what she's sharing is so important because she's telling us why we're where we are. She's not doing it from the basis of being a South African. She's doing it on the basis of being an African person. So she's talking about things that we have allowed to happen and things that we continue to allow to happen. And then we wonder why we're where we are. So once we get through watching this video, I want us to talk about it a little bit. Then we go into our conversation for today. So I'm going to play that video. It's really quite interesting. I was so mesmerized by what she was saying, because that's quite frankly what we're talking about here. That's what we've been talking about, and hope that people will listen. Here we go.
About 7 years ago, I got the opportunity to visit outside the continent of Africa for the first time. The destination was Lisbon in Portugal. On our way from the airport on the train, a Portuguese lady asked me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Zimbabwe in Africa." And a wave of pity washed over her face. And she said to me, "I'll pray for you." There and then it hit me that I was the object of pity. And why was she pitying me? She was probably one of those nice people who would sit in front of their televisions watching a commercial that says, "Do you know, just for $10 a year, you can send a whole African village to school." We must, to the world, we must appear like a retrogressive, backward continent infested with disease, war, people who cannot champion their own causes and rely on the charity of foreign aid to get by from day to day. Over the past 6 decades, nearly 7 decades now, We've received over $1 trillion in foreign aid. But has that developed our continent? IMF has since acknowledged that aid will not lift Africa. In fact, we're getting poorer. We're retrogressing. What has aid done to lift us? Not very much. But what has aid done instead? It has created in us chronic dependency. Our hosts have a saying, I think it's the Department of Agriculture at the zoos, they say, please do not feed the animals. They might become dependent and forget how to hunt. We've forgotten how to hunt. Or waiting for alms, we have totally forgotten how to hunt for ourselves. What has aid also done? It has subsidized the political inefficiencies of our irresponsible governments. We think they're doing something when they are not. Aid has trapped us in debt because most of that debt comes as state-to-state funding, which is loans, which we're struggling to pay back. Aid is also killing our local industries. Why must our people buy mosquito nets when they can get them for free? Aid is fueling corruption. Agencies such as the United Nations, USAID, can work with governments regardless of how responsible they are or not. But I have a question for you, my fellows in the civic leadership cohort. Until when shall we continue to trade our weak and vulnerable as commodities to foreign funders so that we can sustain our paychecks from month to month? Until when shall we be complicit in implementing ineffective programs that are not designed to eradicate the problems on the ground, but only designed to align to the funders' interests? Until when shall we maintain a clean hands policy and not want to do the dirty work of holding our governments accountable for the misuse of our natural resources? The providers of foreign aid are not going to come and uproot our ineffective governments. We have to do that for ourselves. They will not do it for us, unless it serves them, of course. So here are a few things I think we need to do. First of all, we need to change our mindset. We can champion African solutions to African problems if we use our creative energies in the right way, if we remember how to hunt, if we hold our governments accountable, if we leverage on our status as the last investment frontier to move our continent from aid to trade. I'm not talking about something fanciful. Eritrea did this in 2007, completely rejected all foreign aid. For a few years, it was hardships. But from 2010 going onwards, the economy started recording growth. 2010, 2011, and they're still on a growth trajectory. Short-term hardship, long-term gain. Rome wasn't built in a day. Ghana is doing this, moving themselves from aid to trade. Our own countries can do this as well. And as for our hosts and everyone else who wants to help us, I would urge you to reconsider the manner and extent and scope of the help you give us. We no longer just want fish. We no longer just need fish. We need you to help us learn how to fish. Some of us already know how to fish. We need to learn the new technology in how to fish better. Help us with tech transfer, capacity building. Some of us already have the tech to fish, but we need access to the fish markets. Give us favorable trade deals. We need partnerships. And I trust that if we do this, including turning our nonprofits into profit-making social enterprises, doing sustainable change, involving the communities we want to serve in sustainable solutions, I believe that one day when I go back to Lisbon, and if someone asks me where I'm from, I'll say, my name is Sharon Bwanya. I am from Zimbabwe in Africa. And I'll watch their face fill with wonder, awe, and admiration. Thank you.
Well, what is unique to me about what she's saying is not so much the fact that economically, if we don't depend on aid, then we'll do better. Well, in that sector, we see when you give up the wealth that comes from being humbled and dogged by other people, you can make it, you can survive. But what is missing in all of this is part of the reason why we are where we are. We are not spiritually independent. We're still tied to the very people that give us the aid. And quite frankly, they bring the aid to us because behind all of that comes their religion.
Yes.
And that's what they use to manipulate. You know, let me tell you what religion does to us in Africa, particularly the poor. When you are poor and you don't think you have any avenue to get out of your poverty, you're willing to accept anything. The movement that's going on in Nigeria right now with Peter Obi is because Peter Obi is a movement for people who are suffering. Now, that's not to say that he's not going to be successful, because I do believe that he is a very excellent candidate for the presidency of Nigeria. I believe that. But the reason why he's a movement is the mindset of the people trying to get out of the economic burdens of being Nigerians, what's going on there. So they see a bright new light, potential for goodness. That's why they're all rallying around him. And also, of course, his record, you know, of being a good governor. Now, all of that plays a role. But the religion is pretty much something similar to that, a movement that starts because people are desperate. You understand? So they are desperate. Then you tell them there's a place in heaven, you know, when they don't have to suffer anymore. When you present them with that picture, they go for it. That's where we are. We're stagnated mentally there. That's where we are. That was a movement that has got us caught up in mess, and we're still there. So we have to disband that movement of the mind. The one that's going on politically is an essential movement. It is critical. It is needed. It is welcome. I love that movement. I love the movement going on that Nigerians are rallying around somebody they feel that can change things. And I do believe the capacity is there to do that. You know, like he says, verify. If you don't believe, go verify. Go find out yourself. So he comes with the background. He comes with the intention not to manipulate, not to steal. He comes really wanting to be helpful. So I support that movement. But here's another movement that happened to us, and that is the movement of the mind, where people are desperate and you promise them when they die, there's a better place than here. They're stuck in that. That's where we are. So if we can combine moving out of that, dependence on foreign donations or whatever, and move our mind in that direction as well. We would do even better. We would do much better if we own our minds as well, not just our resources, because somebody may give you back your resources, but they can quite easily come back and take it again if your mind is not yours. If they still own your mind, which they do, let's just be honest about that. You know, the religions own the mind of the people. There's nothing wrong with embracing a religion that does something positive for you. But at some point, you're going to have to ask yourself this question: how is this truly working for us? Go and study your history. We have not done any better over the years. Yes, economically, there are some countries that are coming out of all the economic, moving the trajectory of the economics upwards. But then the mindset is still there. The mind is still there. We're still glorifying other people's way of life. So I don't know what you guys think. Any one of you can come in and make it.
Well, you said it all. I mean, there's really not much to be said. The evidence has always been there. So it's not like we're not reinventing the wheel here. The Pan-African thinkers that fought for independence from Britain, from Spain, from Portugal, and from France, one of their main intentions was to emancipate the African mind, right? Your best defense against imperialism is your primordial religion. It's your culture. They could stab you, cut you up, try to behead you, do whatever they want to do to you. But as long as they can't get to this, they can't get you. The Chinese already, proved that. Here's something to kind of buttress what you were talking about. Remember Notre Dame when it burned down? Right?
Yeah.
Notre Dame burned down and African countries went crazy. Those that were Christianized, so to speak. And those African countries that have tolerance for all kinds of religions and all that were affected by it, but not as much. But those countries that were totally Christianized with the Catholic Church, Anglican, and all that kind of stuff, you had, I can't remember what country it was in Africa. You know, I know Ghana didn't donate anything because they have a Pan-African mindset over there. But there were countries in Africa that were donating millions of dollars. And I think one of them donated like $1 billion. At least that's what the president, you know, had a pledge to France, $1 billion to rebuild the church. Think about this. France is already pillaging Africa, right? Niger Republic and all that stuff. Cameroon, they're already pillaging those places. Now think about the amount of money that African countries donated just to rebuild a church. What happens to the rest of the money? It goes into the coffers of the French government. Macron will let you know that real quick and will choke you out if you don't do, if you're a colony of France and you don't do what the French people want, they will choke you out. When Haiti had issues, how many people donated money from Africa to rebuild Haiti? Practically zero.
Zero.
As a matter of fact, when one of the prominent Haitian musicians formed his own nonprofit to try to get aid to the people so it actually would get to the people, he was attacked. He was called the con man. Haiti raised billions of dollars when they had the earthquake. Billions of dollars were raised in Haiti. Those people are still living in refugee camps till today. No more than $10,000 or $20,000 out of all that money, out of all the couple of billions of dollars that was raised for Haiti, almost none of that money went to the Haitians. They're still suffering. The lady on the video that you talked about the fact that Africa has been given at least $1.something trillion in aid. Where is that money? What part of Africa is developed enough to justify that amount of revenue coming in? Is it in Mozambique? Is it in Zimbabwe? Is it in Nigeria? Where? Like she mentioned, people like Ghana understand that self-help is the only prescription to solve Africa's problem. Economic self-help, political self-help, spiritual, religious self-help. We have to be independent in all areas and just concentrate on cross-cultural pollination. You borrow things, you do business with the outside world, you look for things, sources of technology, whatever you need to build your own country, to build up your community, international trade, whatever it takes. All countries are involved in international trade. And those people that have confidence in who they are, what they are, in their spirituality, religion, economic systems, political systems, they're trading with everybody else. I don't see why we can't do the same thing. But when your mind is colonized and you justify your worth by standards that are not of your own choosing, you turn your back to the principles preached by people like Patrice Lumumba, Marcus Garvey, even Malcolm X, KOK Onyioha, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in the beginning, Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara. You had a lot of leaders in Africa that preached self-help, that tried to make us understand that we don't need to look outside to solve our own problems. We can solve our own problems. If you have a disaster in Africa, and you have a people that love themselves, if we have self-love in Africa, there is no country in Africa that needs any help, that Africans cannot come together globally and also on the continent to help rectify any situation that is unpleasant in any given geographical area in Africa or anywhere in the world. But we don't have self-love. We don't love anything Africans. We think it's wearing African hats, listening to African music, wearing African clothes. And on Sunday, you go to church. On Sunday, you go to the mosque. That is not being African. That is not being Pan-African. That is not, there's no allegiance in who you are when the God that you worship, when the religion that you're a part of is not part of your primordial call. You cannot build a castle of sand, and that's what Africans have done. You can't build a castle of sand. Any problem is in Africa is, oh, it's their problem. If the problem is in Cameroon, oh, it's the Cameroonians' problem. It got nothing to do with us. If it's South Africa, oh, it's a South African problem. It has nothing to do with it. If it's in Nigeria, it's a Nigerian problem. It has nothing to do with us. If it's in Kenya, it's a Kenyan problem, and what have you. If it's the African Americans or the Jamaicans or the Haitians, it is their problem. We act as if we are not part of the same fold. Yes, we are. We have to understand and recognize a global African community and understand that if one thing goes wrong in any of those communities, it is our responsibility to look into it and have an informed and unified response to the problem, whatever it might be. Self-help is the key. And the only way to have this self-help is to love yourself as an African, love everything about yourself. Those things that are not relevant, those things that don't work, those things that are counterproductive, you are free to jettison it, because that's what other cultures do. You don't hold on to things that worked 1,000 years ago.
Yes.
But then when you look at the relevance in today's world, you find out that those things are not relevant anymore. You don't keep it. You cannot be that conservative not to get rid of things that don't work. We are all products of time, and we need to adjust the way we do things based on what is needed in today's world.
That's right.
Self-love, foreign religion is what has sapped any sense of allegiance that we have to our primordial core. And that needs to change if the global African community changes for the better.
Excellent. Excellent. Dibia Chiedozie, your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think we have to re-educate our people to understand the word God, Chineke, the way our ancestors did. Our ancestors did not look at God as the way Christianity and Islam presents it today. For Islam and Christianity, God is almost like is anthropomorphic. But for us, God was force. Now, what is the whole essence about force? Which is why we talk about life forces. The whole thing about God is that it came on its own into being. It was not brought into being. That is one. Two, having come into being all by itself, it also engendered the world into being. Like Steve Hawkins would say, matter developed from zero energy. That is the story of God. And so that is why, like Ezewa and Dibia said, and Dibia Ochuaja, both of you have argued, self-help comes from understanding the entity called God. And that is the power of the mind. The mind, especially the human imagination, is the only power. It's a power. The mind is all about power. It's not an entity. It's not a state. It's a power. The power to think, consciousness, and the subconscious. And what is the mind all about? Imagination, the mind, is the power to engender something from nothing, to always rise from nothing into something. Those who understand these, they have been brought down a number of times and they have always rebounded. Once upon a time, we talked about how us, the Igbos, want to mimic the Jews, but exactly what makes the Jews vanquishers, we don't look at it. What makes them vanquishers is the power of the mind. They believe the Jews will not accept anything that is not Jewish, which is why they rejected Christianity outright, because Christianity is an adumbration of Jewish culture by the Romans. And the Jews fought that battle for centuries on the ground that Rome and Europe would not dictate to them what form of religion they should practice. We have seen before our own eye, Germany had been put down, First and Second World War, and Germany rebounds back each time they do it to become the leading power in Europe. Same can be said about the Japanese and the Hiroshima and Nagasaki experience. That's the only country where the atomic bomb has been exploded. yet Japanese, because they believe in Shinto, and Shinto is not a being like the Christian God or the Muslim God. It's all about universal consciousness, in which every individual realizes the power of that universal consciousness in self. And so every individual becomes a unit of creativity, a unit of invention, a unit of discovery, a unit of exploration, a unit of revelation. And that is why you see the countries that do well spend money on the human being. Their human capital expenditure is more than what they spend on any other thing. But in Africa, we spend our budget on propaganda, we spend our budget on war equipment, we spend our budget on frivolities. And to sum it up, I do agree that foreign religion is to a very large extent a problem, because it didn't start today. It started way back in the years when the Islam encroached into the sub-Saharan Africa. Ghana fell to the Almoravid in 1076 AD, and Mali fell after Sundiata. Mansa Kanka took over. We do know the story of Mansa Kanka and Askar the Great of after Sonny Ali of Songaya. Askar the Great took over. Mansa Kanka and Askar the Great. It is written about the two of them that they carry the quantities of gold worth billions of dollars in today's value to Mecca, only to borrow money to come back and to repay their frivolities, extravaganza, that is that worthless, useless expenditure in Mecca. They had to, when they came back home, they had to pay back for their frivolities in Mecca. These exactly are the effects of foreign religion, because foreign religion equals to problem of alienation. Alienation is that you do not see the power of God inside you. You see the power of God outside you. So to sum it up, like Casey Anyanwu wrote, it said, our minds and our spirits are siphoned to the four corners of the world: Rome, Tokyo, Beijing, New York, Paris, to the four corners of the world, as if we have gone to sign pact with chaos. And the only thing remaining here in Africa are our bodies. That is why the only thing we float back to Africa is our dead bodies. So as it is here now, in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, everybody's eloping from the village to the city, from the city to the outside world. As it is now, most people are scampering to other African countries because of insecurity.
Yeah.
So that is a problem of foreign religion. It does not allow you to see until you see the power within.
Yes.
Then the power above cannot come down to enhance the power within.
That's right. That is so true.
That is the problem we have.
Thank you.
We
Yes.
have to let our people know that God is a power, the power to think, and that the whole image given to Jesus Christ, being Son of God, is what we are. That is what, when I realized it, that is one of the reasons I abandoned Christianity. What you are asking me to gain through Christianity, through Jesus Christ, my spirituality gave it to me in the sense that I'm a direct incarnation of Chukwu Abiyama.
Yes. We also.
I am a spirit directly from God, so I have the same image that you have given to Christ.
Yes.
And I'm here to realize my destiny.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
That's absolutely true.
It is time for us to get into the lecture of today, Okwanzu, of which Dibia Chiedozie is going to lead, and then the rest of us will come back in and make our comments accordingly. Chiedozie.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Okwanzu is an Igbo household wooden utensil in which 3 items that are symbolically fundamental to welcoming the visitor in Igbo culture are kept. The name Okwanzu is a combination of 2 items, which are Okwa, meaning wooden plate or wooden utensil, and Nzu, simply meaning white chalk. The 3 items kept in Okwanzu are Nzu itself, which is the most important item there, the primary item. That's why it takes the name Okwanzu. White chalk, kola nut, oji, and osoji, alligator pepper. Now, Okwanzu, it comes from because it's a wooden utensil or wooden plate. When these three items are kept in earthen plate or earthen clay plate or clay tray, it's called Okunzu. Now, these are the various types of we have more than these that I was able to fetch so that we can just get a little bit to know what is meant by Okwanzu. If you look at this very particular one by the extreme right, you see the one in the middle and the one in the extreme right, you see that a place where the nzu can be kept, you open and then you take and you smell on your hand. If it is powder, then it's provided there. The one that is open, mostly what you're going to have, either the powdered one or you have the one that is molded, solid one. So the nzu can be in solid or powder form. Slide. All right, the symbolic representation of Okwanzu. Okwanzu is used in welcoming a visitor or stranger into the home in Igbo land. The presentation of Okwanzu by the host to the visitor or stranger signifies a warm or hearty welcome. The visitor or stranger takes the nzu if in a solid form and draws 2 or 4 or 8 lines on his left hand in accordance with his or her hierarchy in the society. If the nzu is in powdered form, he or she dips her hand, takes the powder and smears on his or her left arm. This signifies that the visitor or stranger wholly accepts their warm or hearty welcome accorded him or her. Next, the visitor is presented with kola nut by the host, to which the visitor replies, Ojeze, dinakeze, meaning the king's kola nut is in the king's hand. Prayer, that means you give it, you touch, acknowledge the kola, you give it back to the host who says the prayer. And then prayer is said invoking Chineke, the spirits of the land. It could be of the clan, of the kindred, of the village or town, or the abode where you reside, the ancestors, for blessings, protection, and guidance. Then the cotyledon of the 4-seeded kola nut, it must be 4-seeded kola nut, representing the 4 days, Ekeore, Afonanko, representing the 4 elements, water, air, earth, and fire. Okay, kola nut is taken out of and given to Chineke. That's you detach the cotyledon. It's that part that grows when you sow this the kola nut to the ground. That part that grows, that is that brings out the shoot. You pluck the 4 of them for the 4 seeds, then you give it to the Chineke, the ancestors, showing obeisance and communion, that we are communion. We are in communion with the unseen world, the spirit world, and the creator of the world. The remaining 4 seeds of kola nut are broken and eaten, showing acceptance and communion between the host and visitors. Symbolic representation of Nzu. Nzu in Igbo culture is a symbol of wisdom, peace, purity, and clean heart. If you see where this Nzu is harvested from, you see that it abhors dirt. It doesn't like anything that is dirty. And so it's something very clean from the place you obtain it. So that is why and because it is white, it represents peace, wisdom, clean heart. So that's the symbolism. It is also a symbol of mystical powers capable of revealing the spirit world. Of course, you do know that a lot of our Dibias, Fela Nicola Kukuchi, they will use it on the left or right side of the eye, or sometimes the 2 of them, and use it to make marks on the body representing ancestry, spirituality, and so on and so forth. All right. Presenting it to the visitor represents holistic acceptance with clean and pure heart. Acceptance by the visitors or visitors signifies the same. Then symbolic representation of Oji kola nut. Oji kola nut in Igbo land basically symbolizes peace, unity, reconciliation, integrity, life, fraternity, hospitality, goodwill, and kindness. Oji represents all of this. Presentation of the revered fruit, however, differs in Igbo communities as in some places. It is accompanied with money, no matter how small or little, or white chalk, Nzu. So you see why Nzu and Oji go together. right? Nzu is very important. Igbo believe that onye wetara ọjị wetara ndụ. He, she who brings kola nut brings life. And that's a symbol. That's the most cardinal symbol of the kola nut. It symbolizes life, abundance of grace, and so on and so forth. It is after kola nut is broken and eaten that the visitor announces her mission. Hence the Igbo say, "Ọbịa taa ọjị, ọka ihe ọbịara." When a visitor eats kola nut, he, she says the objective of his or her mission. Symbolic representation of the Oseoji alligator pepper. Oseoji alligator pepper is a seed from a particular type of grass. When it is freshly brought out from the ground, it is wet and will have to be dried in the sun. From ancient times, alligator pepper has been used in traditional medicine to treat many diseases. It has both medical and nutritional values. It is a therapy to the following: indigestion, body ache, dysentery, anti-inflammatory, aphrodisiac, stimulant, malaria treatment, weight loss, energy booster, sperm booster, immune system booster, worm expellant, heals gonorrhea, postpartum bleeding, cancer, it kills cancer. It's used for healing, treating cancer, muscle pain, arthritis, vomiting, flu or common cold, helps blood flow, calms inflammation, and cardiovascular problems. Now, because it is rich in medicinal and nutritional value, also is believed to have high spiritual powers. And so it symbolizes efficacy and authority. Thank you. That's my lecture. I'm done.
I have a question here by one of our viewers. My daughter, K. Omiri. You say, would it be possible to have access to this presentation or have a PDF or page on the website with all this broken down? Yes, we can certainly, if you request it, it will be, we will certainly make that available to you. Is that okay? I've got a copy of it. I can certainly email it to those who want it. What to me, one of the most significant aspects of this is, first of all, it will die if we don't practice it, because of what it all represents. That's part of our interpersonal relationship with our fellow human beings. If we have that in mind, if we understand what it is, when I give you this is what it means: purity of heart, that I welcome you into my space, and then you're supposed to reciprocate. You're supposed to reciprocate. When you come into my home, bring nothing but goodness. I'm going to offer you goodness, But if you bring anything negative after I've given you kola nut, what will have you? You develop a hunchback when you leave, which actually just means, nothing but bad things will follow you, So I think it's unfortunate that we're not practicing it. I have it in my home. I have to always remember, the significance of it, because you get so caught up with just the way we do things here. Somebody comes to your door and they come in, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah. And you forget, you're supposed to present according to your culture. You're supposed to present this chalk, So I have to discipline myself to continue to do that. Why do you think? Now, I think I mentioned it last Sunday. I presented it to some women who came to my home. They wouldn't touch it. They will not even touch it, because to them it was blasphemy. It was antichrist. I mean, everything African cannot be antichrist. Talk about that.
Well, like we mentioned, Dibia Chiedozie mentioned that you talked about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum. It's all about the educating the African mind. And this education sometimes is not something that starts from the top, right? You have to come to some level of self-realization, so to speak. Maybe if the evidence of what you were taught, I'm getting this echo. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, anyway. If the evidence around you doesn't jive with what you are taught, then perhaps somewhere in your subconsciousness, you start questioning some things. And then maybe that might guide you to some kind of realization that these two things, reality and what the fantasy of what you're being told, is not the same thing, right? You die, you rise into the heavens, you start to think about it, science takes over, and then you go, this couldn't be possible, right? How come all those things that were being done in biblical times, none of them is possible in today's world? Go through all the miracles and everything you see in the Bible, or any spiritual text for that matter. Look at all the amazing magic that happened 2,000 years ago. None of them can happen in today's world. Why? These are some of the kinds of questions you start to ask yourself. Is this just another Jack and the Beanstalk story? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Maybe, what do you call it? Rapunzel? All that kind of stuff. I remember when I was a kid, I actually thought that Hansel and Gretel was real. And for a long time, that story haunted my life. But as I continue to mature as a person, I come to realize it's just a fairy tale. So perhaps people get to the same point that I got to when I was reading Hansel and Gretel and watching the cartoons and the movies, come to realize that this is just a fantasy. So number one is the level of education, right? What we were taught, we grew up in this magical fantasy world as grown-ups, and then suddenly either we realize that we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. These are, Malcolm X's words. Or maybe there's shame, or just not accepting the fact that we've been duped all this while. Maybe we're just comfortable in our ignorance. Maybe it's too difficult to have a level of self-realization, because that kind of impedes the relationship that you have with ignorant family members or ignorant friends. Maybe you just don't want to rock the boat. Maybe you just, to maintain those relationships, maybe you need to live and stay in your ignorance so that you could get along with other ignorant people. Maybe it's too difficult to be enlightened. There's a saying that goes like this: he who tells the truth walks alone. Think about what I just said. He who tells the truth walks alone. Yes. People are comfortable with the lie. People are comfortable with being conned, duped. Everybody tells you, thou shalt not lie. Tell the truth. There's a line in a movie that says, you can't handle the truth. It is our inability to handle the truth, for the most part, that keeps us ignorant. We can't handle it. You want to tell me all my life I've been told one thing, and this is not what really is happening. I'm too old now to learn something new, because I have not in my own mind realized that I'm just spiritually not there. One thing I have to say, and I think we don't talk about it much, because I like to do what I call comparative analysis. Yeah, we talk about what it is that we do, but there has to be a comparative analysis with other schools of thought, so that we understand that there's nothing wrong with how we see the world and what it is that we do. Others do it. Dibia Chiedozie had mentioned it earlier on. Communion is the essence of all spiritual relationships, whether it's relationship with God, Chineke, your ancestors, or your fellow living human being. There's a level of communion that has to go on for you to have this relationship. In Christianism, to have communion with God, you have to eat the flesh and drink the blood. You don't literally eat any flesh and drink any blood, even though the pagans, during the time of, I think it was Nero, who thought that Christians were cannibals. And that's part of the persecution of the Christians, coupled with the fact that in Rome, they refused to serve in the army or pay taxes. So they weren't really being persecuted just because they were Christians. There were other underlying factors that led to the persecution of Christians in Rome. But that being said, communion is a universal practice when it comes to religion and spirituality. In Shintoism, it exists. In Buddhism, it exists. In Christianism, it exists. In Islam, in one shape or form, it exists. In Zoroastrianism, it exists. In Baha'u'llah-ism, it exists. In Urumila, it exists. It exists in over 400 major world religions. Sikhism, Hinduism, Taoism, you name it. Communion is part of our spiritual relationship with the Creator, with our ancestors, with our fellow human being. Ancestral reverence is not witchcraft. Every religion is involved in it. Open up the Bible in the Old Testament. You have Abraham. He's an ancestor. You have Ruth. She's an ancestor. You have David. He's an ancestor. You have Moses. He's an ancestor. Every character in the Bible is an ancestor, and they are revered as long as they're doing something good or they did something good. In Islam, it's the same thing. Muhammad is an ancestor. There is no religion that doesn't have a level of ancestral reverence in its philosophy. So when we talk about our ancestors and we talk about communion or breaking kola, we're not talking about witchcraft. We're not talking about voodoo. We're talking about a spiritual process of communion that every world religion involves itself with. There is nothing sinful about African spirituality or the way we interact with Chineke, excuse me, or our ancestors or with our fellow human beings. As a matter of fact, let me bring something to light. Maybe I've talked about it before, I don't know. But if you come to my house as a visitor, the first thing that I offer you is a kola nut and nzu, the chalk. And if I happen to have some hot pepper and all that stuff, I put it in there. All of them contained in Okwa nzu. Okwa nzu contains these communion pieces with the visitor, with Chineke, and with our ancestors. We just don't welcome your visitor to your house. You just don't welcome the visitor. When your visitor comes and you bring out the okwanzu with the nzu, with the pepper and with the kola nut, you also bring Chineke into it. You bring the ancestors into it. It is all part of it. When you come to my house and I don't present you with nzu and I don't present you with the kola nut, then I have not had any meaningful communion with you. As a matter of fact, I haven't welcomed you in my home just because I gave you food and some few beers and a hot drink to drink. Sharing the kola nut and nzu with you when you come says that as long as you are in my house, under my roof, I am willing to sacrifice my life in protection of you. I am having a spiritual communion with you, that you are safe in my house. If you come to my house and I have not offered you a chalk in our spirituality, in Igbo spirituality, in Chiism, in Godianism, I have not welcomed you. I have not had any meaningful spiritual communion with you to say, welcome, my brother or my sister. Under my roof, you are safe. Nothing will ever happen to you, and I am ready to put my life on the line in protection of you. In every Igbo gathering, all this used to settle disputes between siblings, between neighbors. It served at marriages. We don't use it in funerals. Nobody goes to a funeral and then breaks the kola nut. It doesn't happen. It's not part of this communion. But it's part of everything we do. Weddings, naming ceremonies, whatever. It's used to make peace between communities, to make peace between families, to make peace between people, between friends and enemies. It is a significant part of our communion. We believe, as a matter of fact, that after Chineke created Ada and created Ife, the first plant or tree that Chineke created was a kola nut tree. This is how significant the kola nut is in terms of our spirituality and our religion. So when you see us pouring libations, when you see us breaking kola, when you see us invoking Chineke and our ancestors, We're doing something that is spiritually relevant, is part of our history, is part of our culture. It is no different from what every other people or culture do when they are in communion with their own ancestors, with their own God, and with their own neighbor. That's it. Is Chief there? Okay, Dibia.
I just wanted to know if I left both of you there to see if Chief had Dibia Chiedozie had anything to add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dibia, go ahead.
But we can't hear him.
Well, you have to unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So I am quite elated by the dimensions you've opened up. And so we can see that it's not just for welcoming visitors or strangers. It is the essential thing there is communion. And without communionship, there can be no companionship.
Yeah.
So we need communionship for us to have companionship. And why do we have companionship? Why do we have companionship? Because there's trust, there's sincerity, there's loyalty, there's honesty, there's openness of mind, there's purity. So, and without all these, commerce, business, economy, politics, anything, any activity cannot thrive. So you see, you will now begin to see a lot of things are tied around the Okwanzu. In fact, the organization of the society, social cohesion, coordination is tied around it. And so it's a landmark that we should not forget, and we shouldn't dare forget it, because if we do, then we have lost one of the things that we use to create peace, unity, coordination, progress in our society. And usually when we bring the Okwanzu kola nut is brought, we say prayers. And on this prayer, the fundamental line, the guideline is respect Ugu. And one of the things, the prayer there is that Ugu keji kowa, Ugu keji agaya.
Yes.
The Almighty Chineke, chukwu okike abịama, created the whole universe out of respect. And it's out of respect, obeisance, that we will thrive and succeed. And it even says, begins to remind us that it is not how powerful you are. The earthworm has no bones, but it burrows into the earth. Ugu mere akwa oshishi mgbọrọgwụ oshishi ji apụchara ọhụrụ n'okpuru ala ka a na-etu nri maka ọganihu. The roots of the tree as this forage for food under the ground. The mighty Iroko, the root will meet the ordinary mahogany tree or any other smaller tree underground. They don't fight, they create space for each other for sake of progress. So, and all of these prayers and all of these culture, all of these traditions are kept around the Okwanzu. So it is a cardinal central point that we should not meddle with, and we need to hammer it. In fact, if there is need, I think for those of you that are abroad, we should make it a culture to have it. I have it in my office. And when I was presented that, I know what commotion it cost. In fact, one of my in-laws came and said, is this what they say is the juju you put in your office? I said, yes, so I'm going to trouble. They said that I tie medicine, tie juju until I place the thing nakedly in my office. I'm not even afraid that anything that people say about me, I'm a juju man, I'm a talisman man. I said, I don't even bother. I said, yes, that's the talisman. Oh. You can see the talisman is Nzu. Oji and Osaji is the white chalk and kola nut and the alligator pepper. And then you can see the fetish plate that I use in putting the okuzu. That makes it really potent. So anybody that comes into this office with a bad intention, this will just pursue you away. Okay, you understand. Well, but that's on the on the lighter side. But that is how bananas we have gone. So we really need to take these things back so that our people will be well educated and find out how rich and deep our culture is. And
yes,
they will.
Yes, they will. And you know what? One of the things that people need to know as well is the medicinal factors in this Okwanzu. You listed quite a number of medicinal use of the Okwanzu. I know for a fact that women chew it, when they're pregnant, it stops nausea. Now, all the other ones that you mentioned, what is the relevance of the chalk? Well, how does that help with high blood pressure and all that stuff you listed?
I didn't go much into that part, but I do know that the chalk is packaged for different purposes.
Yes.
There is a part of the chalk package for spirituality. There's part of the chalk package for medical purposes. And there's part of the chalk package for stopping vomiting too. The ones that are packaged for vomiting are burnt clay. They burn it, burnt white chalk. It's a bit brownish. It's burnt, and I think they mixed a bit of salt, and
high in sodium.
Some other ingredients that will stop vomiting. Then the ones that some of them are eaten by pregnant women for purpose of calcium to make the baby inside the womb to be strong, and those ones have less salt.
You know what? I'm sorry. Udee, when we talk about all these things that they give us to take for muscle pain, arthritis, like you said, vomiting, flu or common cold, if a simple chalk like this can handle those things, why is it that people are not aware of it? Why are they not using it?
Because they're not teaching that in the university. They're teaching you Western medicine. We're validating our worth by standards that are different from what we primordially, have always rallied around. Dibias, the Ochuajas and the Ochuajas and all these different Dibias that you have that are responsible for different areas of medical and spiritual practices, right? We don't recognize that in our educational system. We just don't. We always seem to ascribe superiority to something that is not African, which is terribly wrong. What I'm saying right now, or what I just want to point out real quickly, it doesn't really have anything to do with Oji or Nzo, Osoji and all that. But I just want to use an English word, altar. The word altar. Can anybody name any religion in the world that doesn't have an altar? When you talk about African religion, you associate it with an altar, everybody thinks of some kind of witchcraft or wizardry thing going on. You have altar in the church. Which religion does not offer an altar? Is it Hinduism? Is it Buddhism? Is it Sikhism? Which one? Every religion has an altar with its own significance that is culturally, spiritually, and historically relevant to the people. But when you talk about, do you know that Jews sacrifice chicken? As a matter of fact, when a Jewish priest is in serious prayer, they get chicken, a rooster, and they swing it around their head. You can see the videos, the pictures are there. They swing the chicken in conjunction with their prayer, their libation. They swing the chicken. But if an African grabs the same chicken and starts to swing it around his head, if the Jew is swinging some chicken too, it's like when the African American in particular, and I'm using that because the joke comes from the African American world. When the African American eats chicken, everybody says that chicken is a black thing. They act like Chinese people don't eat chicken. I mean, if I go to a Chinese restaurant, they got orange chicken over there, barbecue chicken, peanut chicken, chicken leg 1, chicken leg 2, all kinds of chicken. White people eat chicken too, and they eat fried chicken. So is the joke about eating the chicken, or is the joke about the fact that it's fried chicken? Which is it? Because either way you look at it, it's still chicken.
Judy, I want to emphasize good points. I want to emphasize this: when we say that in ancient times that alligator pepper has been used in traditional medicine to treat many diseases, is this scientific research somewhere that we can get this kind of information? Because it seems to me a lot of what people are dying of, right? Yeah. There's a simple solution.
Go to the village.
You see what I'm saying? But then the villagers themselves are being turned away from using these products. You know, even our own government, they tell our people not to use these things. You know, it's like you said, witchcraft, voodoo, all of that sort of thing. You know, but if you go to China, and I mean, as a matter of fact, go to a Chinese website that sells things, you see all these things that they're all beautifully packaged. You see, and then guess what? You will find our own things packaged in their stores, and then we see it and say, "Oh, I know it's from Nigeria. Oh, we have it," and then we buy it. But if you came to a store that's a Nigerian store, hey, because what is this? What is this mindset that we have that's quite frankly preventing us from healing ourselves? If the alligator pepper can cure body ache, why are we not eating it? If it can help indigestion, why are we going to the store and buying all these medications, some of them not even real? If it stops dysentery, anti-inflammatory, oh my goodness, aphrodisiac, stimulant, malaria treatment. Now, that's why I was asking, where is the research that shows that it impacts malaria treatment? Because too many people are dying from malaria. So how is it used to treat malaria treatment?
Hold on, I'll let
how is it used to treat malaria? And if there's such a thing that does that and it's right there in our community, I mean, we should be raising all kinds of stink.
Yeah, I'll let Chiedozie answer that, but I just want to say something before he takes it, because he's a scientist and I think he could take that. You remember malaria? What is that? What do you call that? Erika-icon? What do you call that stuff?
Yeah,
Mamayacum.
Hey. You boil it, you drink it, it gets rid of malaria. Yeah. We were actually using that before the war and during the war and a little bit after the war, before we became so-called educated, more westernized, where we start to jettison those things that were already culturally, medically part of our world. We were already doing that. Most of the research that you're not going to get it really in the lab, because there's a conflict of interest there. Promoting African medical substitutes, right, lessens the influence of the pharmaceutical companies, of Johnson & Johnson, of all these foreign pharmaceutical companies that want to sell you their product. Our standard is by, Indians make most of their own medicine in India.
Yes.
Most of the AIDS medicine, they make a lot of stuff, and they got into a lot of bad situations with Western pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, but they established their own pharmaceutical industry, creating their own research, using their own primordial solutions to create modern medicine. And one of their biggest clients in terms of drugs and medicine is South Africa. And South Africa patronizes Indian pharmaceuticals because of the high cost of Western medicine. So we can have that same mindset of reducing cost, of making medicine more available to people that need it by doing actual scientific research on some of these products, and in conjunction with the Dibias. You can't do it without them. In conjunction with the Dibias, providing information, pointing out some of these medicines, reducing the trial and error part of research, we could get there faster. But I'll let Dibia Chiedozie please handle this one because it's a very critical question.
Yeah. One thing we must know is that our perspective of medicine is not exactly the way Orthodox medicine is.
Yes.
For Orthodox medicine, it is Plasmodium carried by the mosquito that causes malaria. And when that one mosquito bites one, especially a mosquito that has already bitten someone before, and then the Plasmodium has gestated in the stomach, then if it bites its second party, then it transfers the Plasmodium into the blood cell, and then the person gets malaria. Well, we didn't know about this in traditional medicine before the white man came. What we know is that the stomach, once the stomach is clean, then you have good health. Once the stomach is clean, you're going to have a very good heart, and all the other systems will work well. And so we rely on things that cleanses the body, things that cleanse the body, like all this nchuang, ulubu. Because if you get the names, you get when you look at the names we give to things, you get their spirituality or medical potency. Olubu, one elubu olubu. In Nkporo and everybody say olibu, one elibu elibu. So whether it is olubu, oluburu, olibu, olibu, it's the same here now, elibu here, nchuang, and so on and so forth. Then same thing with bitter cola, or tazi, or kazi, alligator pepper. These things have the potency of cleansing the stomach, making the stomach clean. And even here, down here, it is known, like there's a Reverend Father Akiutiko. Here is a chaplain of the Catholic, St. Thomas Catholic Church here. He's into herbalism. And here we have argued this several times. Whether the government likes to accept it or not, the people of Africa, the people of Nigeria, the indigenous people have accepted these things. If you go around the corner, both the Igbo traditional women, the Yoruba, all traditional people, they sell mborogu, abu. And we do know that after taking malaria tablets, it doesn't cure the malaria. What it does is that it drives malaria parasites to go and hide under the liver. And after some time, they swim out and then the malaria continues. So the only thing we use in clearing is that we go cook, we make pap. So the pap water, that we sieve overnight, we use it to cook mborogo. Then we drink it. We drink it like we're drinking water. That's what we take in place of water. And you drink it for 7 days. It cleanses the body generally, including a pie and all sorts of things. So that is how we looked at it. For instance, to illustrate again, for the Orthodox medicine, madness is in the mind. But for us, madness is in the stomach. What do you see? What do you use in noticing the mad person? The mad person has lost control over what he or she puts in the mouth. And then he or she has also lost control of what he says. She says or he says. So the first thing our people do, instead of giving drugs, is that they quarantine the mad individual alone in a building that is sealed up. So he encounters darkness and he begins, so it's to make him to begin to reason. And then they control the stomach. They begin to give that individual maybe food once in 2 days, once in 1 day, and they alternate it so that the individual begin to, why is this like that? And so they begin to make the individual to think. Before 3 to 6 months, you begin to see, they begin to give the bad individual some items to appreciate. And if the individual can read, they begin to give him items, simple items to read, to recondition the mind. Before that is done in a year, discover that the person is scared of madness. So our perspective of seeing the human being may not be the perspective of Orthodox medicine. And so what we need to do is to do what other civilizations have done. And some people are doing it here. Some Dibia I know here, both the Igbo Dibia, Yoruba Dibia, they walk in hand like I know of a woman called Yalarakwe. She worked as a midwife for 30 years in Magada and General Hospital. Then she's practicing the traditional abet attendance thing. I also know of my friend here, Odim Kalu, Igban Kalu. Both of them work hand in hand with the Orthodox people. If you come to them, they will first of all send you to go and do X-ray or do scan or do tests so that they know exactly what they are treating. And if it's somebody who is hypertensive, they ask you to bring your drugs. Then they make invocation on the drugs and assign dimension based on the test on those drugs. And those drugs become more efficacious than when you take them ordinarily. So that is to say, there is dimensions to healing. The way we saw healing is not the way Orthodox medicine sees healing. Mm-hmm. So we should do what has been done in India, put both of them side by side, and even make them to get intermingled, interwoven, so that we carry researches into them, because traditional medicine works on imagination, empathy, while Orthodox medicine works on reason, dissection. Mm-hmm. So that's why in traditional medicine, you can cure people with kidney problem, heart problem, without necessarily dissecting them. In traditional medicine, there's only one kidney in the world. But in Orthodox medicine, the kidneys have to be classified. The blood groups have to be classified. So there are differences. There are people who have healed people with kidney problem, heart problem, liver problem, without necessarily dissecting them, by only asking them to go and get the kidney of any animal, any mammal, place it on your kidney part or your liver part on there and meditate on it. They take it and put it in some tree that has the regenerative power. Then they take the shirt of the individual, wear it on that tree, take a property from that individual, tie it on it, and begin to make invocation on it. Before the end of 1 year, when that tree regenerates and brings out fruit, the individual is healed up. The process may be longer, but it heals the individual without necessarily cutting. So our dimensions may not be the same. We need to study both in depth.
Yeah, I agree so much, because also healing is such a mental thing. You can actually heal yourself by believing that you'll be well. Now, I think one of the most dangerous things that Orthodox medicine does is to say to people that, well, you have 6 months to live. you have 7 years to live, because it's a mind thing. You begin to live your life within those 7 years or whatever they give you, if you're lucky, right? And your zeal for life, kind of goes down. Yeah, you may travel to see, well, let me go to these places I have not been before and all that. But still, mentally, you've been conditioned that you don't have much longer to live. So what the heck? It doesn't matter anymore. Why bother with aspirations? Why bother with something? Some other important things that you've been wanting to do. But after all, I only got how many days? But Orthodox medicine tells you you're gonna be healed, right? Just keep working on it and keep going. But they don't tell you how much longer you have to live. And since you're not focused on just the term of your life, you're just more focused on living and continue to do whatever is necessary so that you can heal. Now, I remember the gentleman who healed my brother. My youngest brother had, he's now the youngest because the youngest passed away. He had this big sore on his leg, right? Just absolutely horrid. And his one leg was so swollen around the knee, and he was in such pain. And never couldn't get up. He always sat in that.
It happened when we were playing soccer.
And he was just in such pain. It was just so disheartening to watch him live in such pain. You see what I'm saying? Well, my parents went to a native doctor, all right, and they gave them this bottle with some concussion that they put together. These are natural herbs and whatever that they put together. And they told my parents that every day he had to take a spoon of that. Now, mind you, that the doctors have already told my parents that they have to amputate that leg. Okay, there was nothing they could do for him. It has to be amputated. But my parents just could not see how they can tell this young man all through his life he's going to walk around with one leg. You know what I'm saying? So they actually had to go and seek a native doctor who gave him that concoction. And not only was he to take that every day, they also he was to take that and they cut a little bit of his skin, and they were to patch some of that on the cut skin. And before too long, nothing but pus just started coming out of that leg, just pouring out of it. And before you knew it, he was healed. The Orthodox doctors didn't understand, because as far as they knew, it was gangrene and all that. So you could tell that. But he healed completely. Now he's got his leg, he's walking around. He walks with a tiny little limb, you know, because of all the nonsense they had done on that leg by the Orthodox medicine. But he survives. He's got his leg today. They would have cut it. So yes, I know that those medicines work. When my mother was pregnant with one of my sisters, it was breech birth. I mean, the baby was breech, and they told my mom they were going to do C-section to turn the baby. Right. Well, the same doctor, I don't know what he did, made my mother drink. The baby, I'm not exaggerating. This is true. Udee's here. You can tell. And the baby turned. Whatever happened with what they gave my mother to drink, it caused the baby to turn, and she had a natural birth. So Orthodox medicine is not always right. And those who think that it is, you've been bamboozled, as Udee was saying earlier. You know, they just tell us these things about how bad our things are. I know for a fact that when my mother was expecting, she ate unzu. When she was nauseated, she would eat it. She would just eat it.
I've done it myself.
Yeah, when you're nauseated, you eat it because and also it's kaopectate. They use it in kaopectate. You know, it stops diarrhea. You see, so those things, unfortunately, we're the only people that have something. They take it from us, present it back to us, and we think it's something new. You know, in a nicer package. So why don't we do this? Why don't we learn to package our things in fancy packages and give it fancy names? That's all they're doing. There's a store here in my daughter took me to a store here. I don't remember the name of the store here in Atlanta, Georgia. And if you go there, you see all these beautifully wrapped African herbs. And people are just buying it. Just buying it. And isn't this stuff we see in Nigeria that nobody wants to touch?
These people are appreciating something different, right?
Yes, they
something
do.
holistic, something that doesn't smell of just chemical here, chemical there, something that has lost its natural attraction to healing. You understand what I'm saying? Now, Ahang always said, you cannot hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held anymore. Right? There are lots of ways to revolutionize medicine in Nigeria, or really revolutionize things that are aesthetically African that can contribute positively to our trajectory, upward mobility in all areas of human endeavor.
Yes.
We have corrupt leadership, and this corrupt leadership has a lot to do with the defunct educational system that we have in Africa. And I'm not talking about having a school with beautiful buildings and all the teachers in the world, the roof is great, and you're wearing your beautiful uniform, and that means that your education system is sound. That's not what I'm talking about. That's just makeup. Because underneath that makeup, underneath the lipstick, is still a goddamn, excuse the expression, pig. Okay? You don't matter how much makeup you put on, you look good. Once I rub that makeup off, it's just some ugly duckling right up in there. It's not going to change anything. So the beautiful buildings and the Catholic schools and the private schools and all of that crap changes nothing. You put makeup underneath that makeup is nothing but self-hatred and ignorance and non-appreciation for who you are. What we need to do is have a grassroots movement like we have right now, where we're talking about it, doing some comparative analysis, You might even have some business entities that may listen to what we're saying or may already be in the process, like you mentioned, having all these stores that have this holistic medicine. Start creating your own. Open up your own stores right there in Africa.
That's right.
Then you can, from there, beauty, beauty starts from the home front.
That's right.
Put your own holistic medical medicine together locally and through comparative analysis, because sometimes it just depends on how you talk about these things. It's not enough to tell people that 1 + 1 is 2.
But here's something you need to realize.
Mm.
As when we started this program, we talked about the fact that our mind, in spite of all the good things that we may want, if we say that we want people to, to recognize that we've got this capacity to build our country up and all that sort of, and give us opportunities. Yeah, all right, that's fine and dandy. But whenever you start to talk about some things that are African, natural African things, then you have these religionists who come in there, all right, and disrupt everything. So there was a woman who had a farm, with African herbs. That's what she cultivated, and she was telling people how this will help. And they burned her alive. They burned her and her child alive because they called her a witch. You see what? So if you come out, your enemy are those who condemn your culture. Those are your enemies. Because when you try to do something positive, they come in there with all this commentary about what you're doing is blasphemous.
I agree with you.
I just want people to understand. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care if you believe in Allah or Jesus or Florian, like Dad says. Okay, just a minute. Florian, I have no problems with that. What I have a problem is you don't have the right to impose that on me. You don't have the right to impose that on my people. You don't have the right to diminish and demean. You don't have the right to make our people stay in the valley when they should be up in the mountaintop. It is our responsibility now. Don't be bashful. Call a spade a spade. When people tell you crap, excuse the expression, tell them back the heck off. I am what I am. And I'm not ashamed of it. Nobody else is ashamed of who they are except us.
You have just made the point right there, Ogele.
Let me just finish. If you want to be respected, you always say that, Udee. If you want to be insulted, you will be insulted all day long. At some point, you need to see the responsibility that you have. It is not what somebody out there believes. People cannot build your blueprint for you. You have to create your own blueprint. Good, bad, or indifferent. Even if you stumble in the process, it's okay. Children fall every single day, but they pick themselves up. A child learns how to walk only when they fall. Then they know what to do and what not to do, how to brace themselves and what not to do. But we cannot continue to demean things that are even helpful to us. Look at the list that Dr. Chiedozie has shown us. All the benefits of Osoji. Osoji is everywhere. There's so much benefit to it. I mean, because of what I've learned today, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to go get it. I am going to go and buy Osoji, and I'm going to take it and see how does that help my blood pressure. How does that help with my... No, seriously, we can't talk about this stuff. We have to be about it. Go and investigate. I am going to visit. I know what the store is. Tomorrow, I'm going there. Today is Sunday. They close. I'm going there to buy Osoji. And I'm going to start eating it. I'm going to see how does that help with whatever issues I'm having. I'm not telling anybody out there to go do what I'm doing. I'm doing my own research. Do yours however you see fit. But I will do it. And I'm telling you very honestly, if this thing is working, if it does work, I shall bring that to you and I'll let you know how that has worked on me. Udee, go ahead.
You just made the point, I'm trying to make. You just really made that point. Listen, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. The problem we're having is because the mind is wasted, is bamboozled. I've always, and you've heard me on this programming, I've always talked about comparative analysis. A lot of times, the way we talk about African medicine and stuff like that, we talk about it from just the good that it does, how we've neglected it, how we're able to do certain things, you know, with African medicine and cure certain diseases and all that. Those points were supposed to put out there. I got that. You cannot put any positive information about African medical, you know, prowess without talking about it, you know, that way. But you also have to comparatively talk about what other cultures that we find or we deem superior to us are doing, and how what we're doing is no different than what they're doing. They have to, the people that you're trying to educate have to see that. They have to see the relationship between what is that? I can't remember the name of it. The Acom thing for the malaria, Marcom or whatever, and Camoquine or Nivoquine or Panadol or chloroquine. In fact, the quinines will kill you. This one won't if you put it in the right doses and measurements. We have to see what is the difference between the way we used to straighten up a broken leg or a dislocated ankle or dislocated knee with a cast. What's the difference? How did the Chinese people do it? Do your research, find out how the ancient Chinese did it. Find out how they did it in Europe. Find out how they did it in many communities in Africa. Find out how they did it in India, in Japan, in South America. And show your audience the relationship, the difference. Just like we talked about communion being the most integral part of any spiritual relationship. African communion is not evil. White folks doing it in church. The Christians are doing it. You're drinking the blood. You're eating the flesh. It's part of your communion spiritual culture. In Christianism, Hindus have theirs. All world religions have different ways of having this communion with their creator and their ancestors. Show the relationship. The difference is geography and culture. That's what regulates and controls the method of supplication. Where you're located, your history, your geography, which altogether gives rise to the culture of the people. It is your history and your location, how you interact with natural forces, life-sustaining forces. That is what is directly responsible for the culture that comes out of that. All human systems are products of religion. Your economic system, your social, your judicial system, thou shalt not kill, started from a religious perspective before it went into civic law. Thou shalt not lie was spiritual before it became civic. Thou shalt not commit adultery was spiritual before it became civic. Thou shalt not this, thou shalt not that. Thou shalt not lie in court. Now became perjury. We have to show these relationships. That's how we communicate these relationships, the similarities. Once we start to talk about it in those terms, I am confident that we will reduce the level of lynching and burning people when they are advocating their own cultural way of doing things. It's good to come out and say, this is how we do it. It's also good to come out and say, this particular thing that we do, look at how these other people doing it. Can you see that there's no difference, that you're just doing it from a historical and cultural perspective? How we talk about it on TV, how we talk about it on radio, how we talk about it in our communities, it makes a difference. So a lot of times it's how this is presented in terms of how ignorant your audience is and how they're willing to put a rope around your neck and hang you because you're telling the truth. I'll give you another instance. When you talk about African religion, or you talk about African culture, you talk about African medicine, everything that is African, that is primordial to us. When we talk about it, we're not saying for you to forget cross-cultural pollination. You shouldn't respect the Christian. You shouldn't respect the Muslim. You shouldn't respect the Hindu. All we're asking is that the same respect that you are demanding from us, we want you to give it to us too. You want us to respect you and your God. Respect us and our Chineke.
And we have to respect us first.
You have to respect us. Whatever you're asking for them to do for you, I mean, they're asking you to do for them. They got to be willing to do the same thing for you. In African spirituality, in Chiism in particular, in Godianism, what do we say? I believe that every human being has the right to worship God in the way they understand best without bitterness. Regardless of your creed or culture, you have a right as a people, as a race, as a person, as a community to worship God, Chineke, in the way you understand best without bitterness. So we are called the same respect to the Christian, to the Hindu, to the Muslim, to the Buddhist. Do you handle it? But please allow me to handle mine the way you expect me to respect the way you're handling yours. I have a problem when you don't accord me the same respect. When you don't see that I have the same right as you do to see God the way my environment, my history, my culture, my primordial religious or spiritual relationship with Chineke and my ancestors. When you say that I have no right to do the same thing that you're doing, then I got a problem with it. But we must also understand that every nation that is relevant in this world, they all have one thing in common for the most part. 99% of them are all culturally original. Everything they do is in, how do you say, it's in a level of allegiance to their culture. The books they read. I mean, you go to Japan and you're reading a book, it's written in Japanese. You go to Nigeria, read a book, it's written in English.
Yes.
Go to Cameroon, it's written in France.
Yes.
In French, excuse me. Go to Germany, pick up a book in physics, it's in German. Pick up a physics in Ghana, it's not in Bantu language, it's in English. Go to Senegal, it's in French. Pick up a book on biology in Czechoslovakia, it's in Czech language. Pick up a biology book or chemistry book in Russia, it's in Russian. Pick up any scientific book. For the most part, any book on literature, any book in history that usually don't talk about any of our African ancestors or heroes, every single book for the most part is written in Portuguese, in French, in English, or in Spanish, especially those in the Comoros. This is where we are. We justify our worth by standards that are not African. Everybody else is justifying their worth by their own primordial standards. We need to do the same. It's not enough for us to sit around here, talk about how bad the leadership is, talk about these fantasies we have about this perfect world that we are advocating for, or that we are dreaming about, when we ourselves, like you said, Okedibia, are not willing to rise up and say, I am what I am, by the grace of the Almighty Chineke. If you don't like it, let the doorknob hit you, because we are not advocating for anything that any other culture is not already doing. That's why they are great today, and we are economically destitute.
Okay, absolutely. I want to go back to the PowerPoint here, the point here, the Igbo believe that onye wetere oji wetere ndo. Is that just a symbolic expression, or why do they think that when you bring kola nut, that means you bring life? What is that? What's the significance of that? That quote right there.
Well, I think Dibia Ochuaja has already mentioned this before, because in Igbo culture, after the creation, Chukwu created the first woman and the first man, the first plant that was created is a kola nut. Mm-hmm. And so for us, if the Christian scripture talks about the tree of life, that tree of life is a kola nut. Mm-hmm. That's what it symbolizes. Mm-hmm. And so that is why, if you have the kola nut, we have different kola nuts with different sizes of fruits. The one with two seeds, we don't use that. We call that goro, and we don't use it. We use from 3 up. And the one with 3 seeds is called Ojikenga, so on and so forth. But the one that is mostly used is the one that represents the 4 cardinal days, which are the 4 cardinal elements of Eke, water, Ori, wind, Afo, earth, and Nkwo, fire. So, and when you look at these 4 seeds, you see that 2 are usually female and 2 are male. You now see the connection of Eke and Chi. And then you also see that the 2 that are female connects Eke and Afo, because Eke and Afo are female, while the other 2 male will symbolize Ori and Nkwo. Now, if you look at it, the symbolism of Oji represents Igbo spirituality, from the connection between Eke to Chi, and then the 2 being the central point of the 4 elements that we see in reality: water, wind, earth, and fire for the Igbo. Each of these 4 elements has its Eke and its Chi and its Agu. So in Oji, it symbolizes the first tree, a tree of life, that was brought, that was created by Chukwu Okike. And in case you do not have money to do sacrifice, if you need to do sacrifice, there's need for you to do sacrifice. If you are able to take kola whole and pray on it and give it to the spirits to go on a message for you, they will listen. It's not only in Igbo. Among the Yorubas, they also have it, they say, Obinimbi Kunu, that the kola nut drives away death. Obinimbi, the kola nut drives away ailments. Obinimbejonu, it drives away what you call trouble. Nsobu. Obinimbi ofunu. Ona-achụpụ okwu na ụka, na-achụpụ ihe efu, drives away things, frivolities, meaning it also represents purity. And it's a basis for communion between us and our Creator. That is why we cannot break kola nut if we don't call on Chineke. Where we don't find the seed of the kola nut, even the dry kola nut is as good as the fresh one. And should we not find the kola nut, if we find the leaf, it's okay. We can use it to do prayer. Or if we see the whole, when in the season where there is no kola, but the tree is there, we go to the root of the kola nut, we place our foot on it, the right foot, and we make prayers. Because the seed comes from the tree. So it's a very important tree. It represents for us the tree of life. And it carries within it the 4 cardinal elements that sustain the earth we live in. And it also carries within it the spirit force that also direct these 4 cardinal elements. Eke, Nachi.
You know, I'm so glad you pointed the fact that you use the kola nut that's divided into 4, and 2 represent femininity, and the 1 masculinity, male and female. But what I found rather odd, perhaps you can explain this a little bit further, is the fact that a woman cannot break kola nut. If the essence of male and female is contained within the kola nut, how so then that it's almost, people literally freak out when a woman breaks the kola nut? Talk about that.
Well, I think in Igbo, the Igbo side with the patriarchy, that's where we always say that the woman cannot break the kola nut, and that the woman cannot pick the kola nut if male has to pick the kola nut and give to her. And this is because, in my own understanding, it's because of the importance the significance we place on the kola nut. It represents culture, the heart of culture, the soul of culture for us. And when we talk about patriarchy, it means that we have used the male as the custodian of the culture. And so if there are secrets, certain secrets that sustains the that particular village or particular culture, we don't want it to be taken outside the house. So we want to keep it secret. Because even among the patriarchal Igbo group, a woman that is a Dibia, because once a woman is a Dibia, her husband has to live with her in her house. She can break kola because she's given a male status. Then for those Igbos that are matrilineal, practice matriarchy, like in your place and among the Abreba and so on, those places that practice matriarchy, the woman is a custodian of culture, so she can break kola. So I think what they are guiding against here is that certain secrets that sustain, that is germane, sustain the spirituality of a place, they don't want it let out. And since in fact, those of us that practice patriarchy, the woman will be married out. And when you marry her, she carries potential, tangential information about what we hold dear about the kola, certain things about the kola. She takes it out. We don't want that revealed. That is why we put that taboo. That's my only two understanding.
Okay.
And also, a woman who is titled, a Dibia woman, can present kola, can do a whole lot of stuff men do. But because she's titled, she's in divinity, she's part of the Dibia brotherhood or sisterhood, whatever you want to call it. It is also felt that the secrets of the Dibiahood is protected because she is part of that ring, that circle. So a lot of the secrets and all that. My mother handles kola nut and everything.
Well, you're right. You know, the reason why I had to raise
Dibia, and she does it. She does all that stuff. I've seen her do it. But you have to be in that circle, like Chiedozie, Dibia Chiedozie have mentioned. It's all about this possession of loose lip, of taking something that is designed for a particular, home base or community or whatever, and making sure that it is not revealed, and to be able to be in the cycle of those people that traditionally break kola nut. You have to be part of that that cycle of people who are looked upon as custodians of the culture. So a woman can still know how to do it.
Yeah, but I break kola nut. I probably break kola nut better than a whole lot of men that I know, because I can say it in ways that you heard me break kola nut.
Yeah.
And I can, so I understand.
Remember? And libation.
Oh yeah,
you're not a small woman.
Yeah, so I have the right to do it. But I thought it was really important to say this, to ask this question, so that some men who do not know the real reason why such is the case, that they should know it. Because for some of them, they misunderstand it to mean a certain level of superiority to the female.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with it, but it's important for them to know that, because some of them don't know. And when they say, hey, why are that word? They don't even know why that is the case. So that was why it's important that you discuss that. It has nothing to do with a male or female superiority or male superiority or inferiority. It has nothing to do with that. It is the culture. If it's a matrilineal community, a woman certainly can break it, because she holds authority. She's the custodian of the culture, as Udee has said. So it can be done there. But in a patriarchal society, the man is the custodian of the culture. So it is his responsibility to protect the culture. And if a woman is married, gets married outside of the community, she goes with those specific secrets, if I may use that expression.
Yeah, one thing.
Let me just finish. Contained within, the breaking of the kola. You don't want that taken out. This is important because we as African people must not divide. See, there's something called dignity that every human being is accorded the day that they're born. When you're born, you have a contract with Chineke. You are the temple of Chineke. I don't care if you're male or female, you are the temple. That means you have the power of Chineke. It rubs off. It's there. It's within you. You have the right to carry yourself as a noble custodian of Chineke's space. Chineke is in you. You understand what I'm saying? So it is not beneficial for any human being, male or female, to feel inferior to another human being. If you did not create me, so to speak, you don't have the authority to tell me what I can or cannot do in my life. You don't. That's just it. I can't tell a man what he can't do. That's not my responsibility. I don't have that right. Every man has the right to be as powerful, as successful as he can. So does a woman. I cannot put a man down and expect him to feel good. A man has the responsibility to feel good about who he is, his culture, if he's the custodian in that kind of community. That's perfectly okay. But it is not, and our men need to understand this. I say this to my Igbo men, like it or not. You don't have the right, under the guise of culture, to undermine another human being, male or female. Everybody has the right to shine. How you present your authority is one thing. Present it sensibly, in a way that people understand it and keep their dignity intact. I've got men who present it in a way that it makes you as a woman feel inferior. Or, there's such a taboo. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you start to question your worth. You start to question, who am I then? And you start resenting being around the men of your community, because it's human nature to want to feel good about who you are. You don't want to be undermined. So your explanation, Dr. Chiedozie and Udee, it puts to, I hope that there are some men who are listening, paying attention. It is not about your superiority to female. It is about you being the custodian of the culture and the need for it to stay in case the woman is married into another culture. That has to stay within the culture. You can't take it away. I understand that. I have no problems with that. What I have a problem with is when some people get so hyper and angry even. The woman can't do this, the woman can't do that. And yet you're here because of a woman. That doesn't even make sense. Put it in perspective so people can understand it. Put it where the goat can get it. Get it where people can understand it so it makes sense.
I just want to point this out real quick.
I'm going to give you a chance. Let me finish my thought here. It is so important that we understand that as we celebrate our culture, we do it in a way that uplifts all of us. There are women who have bought into the whole notion of their inferiority. I'm sorry, sisters, yes. We refuse to do the dutiful. We refuse to do what we are in a position to do because we have bought into the idea of why are they mama? That is nonsense. And quite frankly, it does not make you want to be around some of our people, because no human being should feel inferior to anyone. Now, Udee has clarified as well that if you're a titled person, then you are, according to culture, entitled to do it. I know that from my dad. My dad would take you anywhere. He took me anywhere, and he made it clear to people, she's a titled woman. She has a responsibility to do this and do that. He had no problem with that. Okay, so as we are practicing African culture, let us look at some of the things that we misunderstand and put it in the right perspective. You know, there's this, somebody said, this is Akachi said, misunderstanding, but it sounds like in patriarchy, there's a stereotype that women have loose lips, which is gender nonsense. Thank you. Yes, yes. Now that's an explanation of why women can't do this because they have loose lips. You know, that's not always true. That's not always true. But nonetheless, that is an explanation. Okay. But I'm sure if a woman understood that this is a secret, that we are not supposed to talk about it, she doesn't necessarily, if she fully understands her, the importance of that she's not going to run out here and start talking about it. That sort of thing. But then again, that is the culture there. But Udee, you wanted to add something before we can close this.
Well, the idea of the loose lips is not an Igbo thing. Every culture in the world feels that way for some weird reason. But there's a scientific explanation for it, and it has to do with the fact that I was listening to this Canadian professor, and he was actually speaking with other women, and it had to do with the physical prowess of a man. And women make up for lack of that same kind of physical prowess by being a little bit more talkative, blah, 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 blah. But hey, I'll let the psychologists and the scientists figure that out. The point I was just trying to make real quickly is, if you're a titled woman or a dibia and the kola nut comes around, when they're passing that kola nut around, they will pass it to the titled woman and the dibia will touch that kola nut before it's broken. Okay. Number two, it is imperative to understand that this does not represent any discriminatory intentions or diminish the position of women in African society, because we have societies in Africa that are metrical. And when it's metrical, like in Nkporo, the woman's position is stronger than the man's position. It is just a cultural expression reserved, to the male gender as custodians of the culture, just as we have certain things that women can only do that men can't do, and is reserved for them based on the man's role and the woman's role in society. So in Igbo culture, depending on whether you're metrical or patriarchal, that plays a role. And then lastly, I just want to say this to you, Okedibia, and all the women out there and all the men of Igbo culture persuasion out there. These same people that are criticizing, when they break the kola nut, they're going to say, through Jesus Christ our Lord. When they are castigating you for letting a woman touch kola nut, yet when they're breaking the kola, they'll call Jesus into it, not just in America here. In Nigeria, in fact, 99% of kola nut breaking will involve Jesus Christ. You and I went and saw all the Aziz break kola nut. You were there in 2018, and every single one of them invoked Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. So none of these people have a right to say anything about Igbo culture when they end the breaking of kola nut with Jesus Christ or Muhammad. On Sunday they'll go to church, but they got the nerve to talk about kola nut and Uzo and everything else, unless they will come on your Okedibioa or Dibia Chiedozie. They can't say anything to me about African culture because they don't know.
Say it again. Dibia Chiedozie, you're smiling. You have something you want to add to that?
Well, I think we have said enough for today. Let's save the rest we have to say for another day. They would. That's what we have said so far. Let it sink, because too many talks may even make the people forget the little you have said. I think we have said enough. Let today's message sink. Then we'll come up another day. Next Sunday, another topic.
I want to thank everybody for being here. And again, if you want a copy of the PowerPoint presented by Dibia Chiedozie, we will send it to you. I've already sent it out to 2 people who have requested it. And we're willing to send it to other people who may want it. In the meantime, I'm also going to post it in our Global Faith Ministries of Chiism. And so that you can, if you would like it, you can certainly go there and read it. Chiedozie, is that okay to post it there?
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's meant to be consumed.
Okay, excellent. I want to thank all the Dibia Ochuaja. Udee. Thank you for the perspectives you brought to the table today. Dibia Chiedozie Okoro, thank you for your perspective. You know, you cannot agree on anything if you don't have a conversation about it. You know, it may make people uncomfortable, but it has to be said. It has to be said. And we're going to continue to speak on this because guess what? When we talk about the alligator peppers, they say that if you eat it, then all you can say, all you can present before others is the truth. The truth is part of Chineke. We are wrapped in Chineke's truth. We are manifestations of the divine. So we have an obligation to speak the truth as is necessary. So we're going to continue to do that. We're looking forward to seeing you next Sunday. Ebobola ifabulu no kwataraka divine obugo gunzu. Mokwa kwatunu. Ọbụkwa ahụ ifeọma ahụ na afụ unu je n'ifu ya ọdịmma unu je n'azụ ya ọdịmma ife ọjọọ anaghị afụ unu ife ọjọọ afụ unu ya ọla azụ is ọfụra. When anything negative sees you, they'll run from you. So until we see next Sunday, your journey shall be good, bright, and full of and uneventful. And if it is eventful, something positive. And let us also keep Dr. Symona Ajamu in our prayers as she goes through the challenges of helping her parents heal from the car accident. I think somebody has a question here. Akachi says thank you. Thank you for the lecture. Okay, thank you. And before we leave, I wanted to share something that Kelena had shared. She said this, and I had posted it earlier. I said, I talked about this medicine in my personal statement for my PhD program, and they ate it up. We are culturally competitive, scientifically, but we just don't see it. So it's time for us to see it, be about it, express it, embrace it, and be it.